My name is Brian Shelton. I'm a transportation planner in the Department of Environmental Services. I will be filling in for Ms. Numidun Obakoya this evening. Before we begin with the items on tonight's agenda, is there any citizen comments on items that are not on the agenda? If you do have a comment, please raise your hand. If not, we can move forward. All right, seeing no hands raised, I will turn the meeting over to Commissioner Furman.
Good evening, everyone. Much like Brian, I am also filling in this evening, and I'll be chairing this meeting. For tonight, I think we only have one agenda item, so without further ado, I'll allow Brian to pull that item up, or do we have someone from the applicant who wants to go first?
Do it both the applicant and Sergio, who's will also be presenting tonight.
Excellent. I'll turn the floor to them.
Justin, you've got myself. I'm Zach Williams. I'm a land use attorney with Venable. You also have the applicant and the applicant team. And we have a brief presentation that we'd like to give, and then we'll be available for any questions that folks may have. So if it's okay, I can share my screen.
That would be perfect.
Great. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. This is the Lucky Gardens redevelopment just off of Langston Boulevard. We are very excited to be bringing this forward to you all tonight. I'm looking forward to a county board hearing later this month. This has been a busy project. A lot of work has gotten us to where we are today. It's exciting as it's set to be the first project approved under the new Langston Boulevard area plan. And it's a great flagship project to be the first one. So with that, I'm going to first introduce folks that will be presenting tonight. Myself, as well as Jordy Fabian with True Ground, and then we have our resident traffic experts from Gore Slade, Felice Brickta, and I'm not sure if Sasha's on. I think she is, but she will be assisting as well. We also have our architects on the line in case there's any questions after the presentation about the building. It looks like we also have our civil engineer here as well. So we have almost all of the disciplines covered. So Jordy, I'm going to turn it over to you for an introduction.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Zach. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jordy Fabian. I am with True Ground Housing Partners. Just to give you a little overview, what True Ground is a nonprofit affordable housing developer based in Arlington, Virginia, and also owner of the existing Lakey property. We are operating throughout the DMV and currently own about 2,800 affordable units with 2,000 units on the pipeline. Our focus really is around the 30 to 60% of the area medium income units. And yeah, we appreciate you guys having us. I'll hang it over to Zach.
Is that just me, or were folks having some difficulty hearing Jordy there? I want to make sure that's not my connection.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I also had a hard time hearing.
Okay. Okay.
But your connection is solid, just so you're aware.
Yep. Okay, good. We can move on to the next slide then. Oops. There it is. All right, I'm going to do a quick development overview, and we'll get into the transportation issues. This is a new affordable housing project. It's a 249 unit project, replacing what is currently 40 units on the site, also owned and operated by True Ground. This is a 100% committed affordable project, as I mentioned, with 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. There will be a 2-level parking garage, partially underground and above ground, with 218 spaces. You can see the parking ratio there of 0.88. That is inclusive of the 12 visitor spaces. We'll have 100 bike parking spaces. The building itself is in compliance with the Langston Boulevard plan in terms of height and massing and step downs. As you can see, we have quite a few here. That's actually by design. That is what the plan guidelines recommend for building massing on this block. We are meeting all of the required setbacks and buffers, particularly along 20th Road, where there's a significant setback and buffer called for to provide for overland relief and stormwater detention. We are also meeting the 35% tree canopy coverage requirement, which is a standard in the plan. We'll be LEED silver, and we also have a private courtyard and other typical resident amenities that True Ground offers its residents. Let me go to the next slide here. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Felice, I believe, is going to be presenting to get into the transportation related issues.
Great, thanks, Zach. As Zach mentioned, I'm Felice Brichter with Grove Slade, and I just will run through some of the transportation elements of the project. So first, just wanted to orient everyone. So this shows the ground floor plan of the project. So as you can see here, we're bounded by 21st Street North to the north, 20th Road to the south, North Woodrow to the west, and then North Woodstock to the east. And so we do have loading access, a separate loading access for the building on the North Woodstock side of the site. We've got 2 loading berths on that side, and then a single parking access on the North Woodrow side. And then pedestrian access into the residential lobby is up along 21st Street and also at the corner of North Woodstock Street. And then dropping 1 level down into the parking garage, this is the P1 plan. So you can see here again the parking access on the east side along North Woodrow Street. We wanted to highlight the 3 bicycle parking rooms on this level of the garage, so they can all be accessed from the garage. And then dropping 1 more level down to the P2 level. There's an additional bike room on this level as well, and this bike room does have access to the exterior of the building at a lower lobby there. So we wanted to highlight some of the multimodal improvements around the site. So these are more or less identified by mode. So starting with the pink shows curb extensions that are going to be provided on all 4 corners of the site. Shown in green here is some of the bike facilities around the site. So there are currently northbound and southbound bike lanes provided on North Woodstock Street. And then you can see the bike racks that are located up along 21st Street and up at the corner of 21st and Woodstock. We also have on-street parking kind of all the way around the site. There's an on-street parking space on the northern end of Woodstock, which is the ADA on-street space. There's actually kind of flipping over to the purple just below that, there's a pickup drop-off zone just to the south of that first on-street space. Again, the loading access on Woodstock, and then additional on-street parking to the south on Woodstock, also along 20th Road, and then along Woodrow Street on the west side of the site. And then talking for a moment about the vehicular circulation that's shown here in the image on the left, we expect the majority of trips to be oriented north of the site along Langston Boulevard, Cherry Hill. And so the numbers here in green show and I think our legend fell off, but the first number is the AM trips and the second number is the PM trips. So as I mentioned, the majority of the trips oriented to the north, and then additional trips split really between Woodrow Street and Woodstock Street, headed to the south toward Glebe, the site. And on the image, sorry, Zach. On the image on the right just shows the AM and PM trips at the parking access into the garage. One other thing we wanted to look at, just given the configuration of the intersection of Woodstock and 20th Street, was just the turning maneuvers for vehicles making that turn with the addition of the curb extension on that corner. So it's oriented north is actually to the right here, but you can see here looking at passenger vehicle auto turn can all make that turn onto 20th Road from Woodstock. So that's what is shown in this image. And then one thing we've spent a lot of time looking at was the parking ratio. As Zach mentioned, we are proposing a parking ratio of 0.88 spaces per unit here, inclusive of the 12 visitor spaces. But what we did was we went back and looked at some comparable sites to kind of dial in that number a little bit more. The first site we have listed here is the existing Lucky site. So as Zach mentioned, that's 40 units currently. Currently, there are about 44 parking spaces supplied, and then we observed about 28 of those spaces being occupied at kind of the peak occupancy for a resulting ratio of 0.7 for the current Lucky site. We also looked at Arlington Mill Residences, Columbia Hill Apartments, and then Gilliam Place, all just selected because of their proximity to Metro Rail is similar to this site. What we found looking at those sites is that there is an average demand ratio of about 0.76, which is lower than the 0.88 that we're proposing. So that gave some comfort that I think our parking ratio is in line for this type of use. And then these are some photos that just shows kind of existing conditions out at the site when we did our parking observations. So the image on the top left shows the Lecky Gardens parking lot at about 5 p.m. So you can see here there's spaces available at that time. And then as well as at 11 p.m., which is the bottom left image, again, shows spaces available in that lot. And then the 4 images on the right side show the on-street parking kind of surrounding the Lecky Gardens site. So you can see here again, there is parking, occurring on those on-street spaces, but there is some parking availability at the times that we were out there as well. Again, this just shows the on-street spaces. So you can see the image on the left shows the existing on-street spaces. So about seven spaces on Woodstock, 6 on 20th, and then 6 on Woodrow. And then the image on the right shows the proposed spaces. So you can see it's really similar in terms of number of on-street spaces. There was one less space on Woodrow in the proposed conditions where the new parking access will be located. One space is lost on that side. That along with the curb extensions, but overall a very similar number of on-street spaces in the proposed plan. And then finally, the site will align with the typical elements of the transportation management plan, including all the facilities that are typically required, promotions, services, policies, and then of course the annual reporting. I think we do have one note contributed. I know ACCS is now converting to track, so we missed making that update. But yeah, the typical contributions to ACCS and the monitoring that typically occurs with a site of this type. And that's what we had for you. So thanks for your time tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for that presentation. Do we also have a staff presentation?
Yes, we do. Good evening. Let me pull it up.
All right, we've got it.
Thank you for confirming. Good evening. I am Sergio Viricochea with Arlington County Department of Environmental Services. I am the principal planner in the Development Services Bureau for the Lecky Garden site plan. This project is scheduled for the February County Board public hearing. This project consists of 3 applications. First is a GLUP amendment to change the GLUP designation from low medium office apartment hotel to low office apartment hotel. Second is a rezoning application to change the site from RA-18 multiple family dwelling district to CO 1.5 mixed use district. And the final item is a new site plan application to construct an 11-story residential building, including 249 residential units and a 2-level garage. To quickly orient ourselves, as mentioned in the applicant's presentation, we're in the Waverly Hills neighborhood, and the site represents the block bounded by North Woodstock Street to the east, North Woodrow Street to the west, 20th Road North to the south, and 21st Street North to the north. Currently at the site, there are two-story brick residential buildings, each housing 20 units each, so for a total of 40 residential units. The site has 2 surface parking lots with a total of 44 parking spaces. Access to the surface lots are provided from North Woodstock Street and from North Woodrow Street. As I mentioned before, the applicant proposes to amend the GLUP designation to low office apartment hotel. The applicant also proposes to rezone the site to CO 1.5 mixed use district. This district is consistent with the proposed GLUP designation and is supported by the Langston Boulevard Area Plan, or LBAP, together with the proposed GLUP amendment and the rezoning permit additional density, which is proposed with the site plan. The area is well served by multiple travel options, including nearby art stops on Cherry Hill Road, bike lanes along North Woodstock Street, and a Capitol Bike Share station just south of Cherry Hill Road. The Boston MU Metro Station is about 1.3 miles away, and the project is being reviewed under the Master Transportation Plan and the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. The map on the right shows the site's location within the MTP. This brings us to the site plan proposal. The applicant proposes an 11-story residential building with a 2-level garage. In total, the applicant proposes 249 dwelling units, including the bonus density earned through the site plan process. The total density will be 4.6 FAR. The building itself will be about 112 feet in height. As part of the proposal, the applicant requests modifications to the zoning ordinance requirements affecting the permitted density, building height, density exclusions, required parking, compact parking ratio, and others mentioned in the report. And lastly, as the applicant mentioned, they are pursuing a LEED Silver certification as part of the development. For site access and parking, the applicant is proposing to provide a garage access from North Woodrow Street, while loading and trash services are to be accessed from North Woodstock Street. The loading bay the loading area includes 2 loading bays, and the project includes a 2-level parking garage with a total of 218 spaces, 206 for residents, which equates to 0.82 spaces per unit, and then 12 for visitors. The loading bays provide a 40-foot deep berth with 15-foot height clearance. Bicycle parking is also provided with 106 spaces total, 100 Class 1 spaces located on P1 and P2, and 6 Class 3 visitor spaces along North Woodstock Street and 21st Street North. Along North Woodstock Street, the applicant is not proposing changes to the street width except where parking is being removed using curb extensions or where the new loading trash entrance is located. The streetscape will be upgraded to include a 6-foot wide sidewalk, a 6-foot wide planting strip, and curb extensions at the intersection with 20th Road and 21st Street North. These improvements align with the LBAP streetscape standards for North Woodstock Street. Along North Woodrow Street, the street width remains unchanged, except at the location of the new garage entrance. The streetscape includes a 6-foot wide sidewalk, a 7-foot wide planting strip, and curb extensions at 20th Road North and 21st Street North. These changes are consistent with the LBAP as well, and its standards are called out for North Woodrow Street. Along 20th Road North, the street width is being reduced by 2 feet to accommodate on-site improvements, with parking now only provided along the project side of the street. The streetscape includes a 5-foot wide sidewalk, a 2-foot wide grass/utility strip, and existing landscape behind the sidewalk is being maintained. Curb extensions are provided at the intersections with North Woodstock Street and North Woodrow Street. These improvements meet the MTP standards for a neighborhood street and also align with the goals of the LBAP, in particular to support the plan's guidance on maintaining overland relief or much of the landscape area that exists today north of 20th Road North. Along 21st Street North, a private street, the width remains unchanged and it will continue to operate as a one-way westbound street. The streetscape includes a 6-foot wide sidewalk and a 6-foot wide planting strip, and the existing utility poles that are there today will remain in place unless an agreement to remove them is reached with the adjacent property owner. These improvements are consistent with the Master Transportation Plan standards for neighborhood streets. Moving beyond transportation elements, I will highlight some of the key aspects of this proposal, as the applicant already hit on most of these, but the proposal is achieving LEED Silver certification. And in addition, the applicant proposes to provide 100% committed affordable units or CAFs, which would allow for density pursuant to zoning ordinance 15.5.9, and in furtherance of the LBAP goals. Finally, as previously noted, the landscaped area north of 20th Road North will be maintained to satisfy the LBAP's overland relief guidance and will be dedicated to function as a greenway. To further advance the area plan's stormwater mitigation objectives in flood-prone areas, the applicant proposes to install a new 24-inch storm main within 20th Road and underground detention vault adjacent to the building north of 20th Road North. The application was accepted for review in September of last year. Following acceptance, the project underwent the standard SPRC process, including online engagement and 2 SPRC meetings. Project is wrapping up its review with commission and board meetings. After today's meeting, the project will be reviewed by the Planning Commission on February 9th and Housing Commission on February 12th, and the County Board at the February 21st meeting. Overall, staff supports approval of the project due to consistency with the goals of the MTP and the Langston Boulevard Area Plan. Therefore, staff recommends the Transportation Commission similarly support the project. And for reference, this slide has the motions for the 3 items included with the project. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. At this point, I want to make sure if there's an opportunity for public comment on this agenda item. And we already addressed if there were any public comments not on the agenda, but is there anyone hoping to speak on the record? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to turn it over to commission members for questions, especially Commissioners Flores and Lentelmi. I know that they were both on the SPRC, so interested to hear everyone's input on this. But why don't we start it off with Commissioner Theo? I saw your hand.
Yes, of course, if Flores or Lentelmi need to go first, go right ahead. But I do have a couple of questions. I think first for the applicant, with the loading dock on Woodstock, I believe, what are the what's the analysis on any potential conflicts with the protected bike lane that is currently there and would remain there? I imagine it being a loading dock, there won't be too many vehicles, trucks pulling in and out, but still, what does the analysis look like?
Felice, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yep, I can speak to that one. Yeah, so we did our typical auto turn maneuvering analysis, looking at how trucks kind of back into the proposed loading docks on Woodstock. It is a standard bike lane along that section, so there is not the protected elements that sometimes you find, like with the protected curb median or buffer zone. So that makes the turning maneuvers a little bit easier. But yeah, we did do an auto turn analysis just to confirm that those turning maneuvers would work as designed.
Okay, and one other question, I think this would be mostly for staff. The building entrance is on the northeast corner of the block. I do not believe that there's currently a crosswalk there, pedestrian crosswalk across Woodstock. Would one be added?
So yes, there's an entrance at the northeast corner. There's also a secondary entrance along 21st Street North. One is a crosswalk is not being proposed across Woodstock Street at the moment by the applicant. It is an arterial, and it wasn't proposed, from the initial stages. There's a crosswalk on the southern end of Woodstock Street by the intersection of Woodstock and 20th Road North, though. And a lot of this is a little complicated because the site to the north is not part of this application. That's the Lee Heights Shopping Center, and coordination would definitely need to happen there. Yeah.
Yeah. You were saying that there is a crosswalk. What is it on 21st with the secondary entrance, or 20th? Sorry.
20th. So south of on the southern end of the site.
Okay. And I'm just trying to pull up Google Maps because I saw that, yeah, there isn't a crosswalk across Woodstock, and there is also not a crosswalk across 21st Street on that northeast corner, which would be going for people going right up to the Lee Heights Shopping Center. That is probably my biggest concern, the lack of pedestrian infrastructure at that corner where the main entrance of the building would be. But that covers my. Actually, sorry, I do have one last question. What, and this would be for staff again, what are the speed limits, the driving limits, speed limits for, I guess, the surrounding streets? Is it at the county sort of standard of 30 miles per hour, or is it 25 from one of the previous amendments or changes?
These are 25 mile per hour roadways.
Okay. That takes care of my questions. Thank you very much.
All right. Commissioner Lantelmi.
Yeah, thank you. First off, before I make comments, will the applicant please pull up the slide where you do the comparison for the parking ratios with the other similar projects? And while you're doing that, first I want to say thank you for doing the turning study for the corner where for 20th, where the traffic circle is being proposed, to make sure that the bump outs will work with the traffic circle. And it looks as though it does. I know that was a concern on the walking tour. We're wondering whether that would in fact work. So that answers that question. So thanks for doing that. Oh, great. Parking ratio, as you know, this was definitely a very hot topic at the SBRCs. The neighborhood was very concerned about the parking ratio here. We did have a number of discussions on it. I think that these, even though they're really more Columbia Pike type of development where there is much more robust transit, nonetheless, I think that the parking ratio here is probably okay. I did a little bit of my own field work, and what I saw was consistent with what you are reporting as far as the occupancy of the current Lecky Gardens parking lot. I went when there would be probably the most cars there in the evening, around 8 o'clock, or early Saturday morning on the weekend. And what I was seeing is consistent with what you're showing here. Have you settled on yet the number of supportive units that will be in this project? Because I know that was something that was still, they're going to be there, but you hadn't landed yet on a specific number.
Do we know that yet, Charles or Jordy?
At this point, we don't have that luck. We typically try to aim for 10% of the units. But at this point, we haven't settled on the specific number because it's a process with the housing division as well.
But will it be within those two percentages? 8 to 10%?
Yes, yeah.
And are there any those units at the current Lecky Garden site?
There are no current PSH units at existing Lecky.
Okay. Then, of course, because the people in those units tend to not have cars, I think that gives me a bit more comfort also that this ratio is reasonable for this site. So thank you on that. I have now questions for staff, and this is on the bike lanes on Woodstock. Right now they exist, and they are the ones where you have the sidewalk, you have the parking lane, and then you have the striped bicycle lane, and then the traffic lane. Is there a reason, and this came up at SBRC, and I apologize for not remembering what your answers were. Why can't we have this be sidewalk, bike lane, then the parking spaces, which are a bit safer for the bicyclists? You're not going to get doored or hit by cars. And it really just requires different striping. Could you give us some thinking on that?
Yeah. Yeah, this did come up at SPRC, and thank you for the question again. I'd just like to remind um, the Transportation Commission that right now, and I can bring up a plan, maybe that'll help too. Right now, the reason that we can't change the orientation or the setup of the bike lanes, and I will bring up a street section, is mainly due to the width of Woodstock Street. If we were to reorient this where the bike lane is curbside, our standards call for some type of buffer to be provided between the bike lane and the parking lane, just for situations where doors can be opened up, and we don't want those doors to create like a safety issue. If you give me 1 second, I will pull up our street section. All right, so for Woodstock Street, you can see in the street section right here that we're already down to like 10.5 foot travel lanes. The bike lanes are also just under 6 on each side, and then the parking is maintained at 7, which is the minimum. In order to have a buffer in between the bike lane and the parking, we're not seeing enough room here to put one in, and that's our typical standard. Whenever we have bike lanes up against the curb, we do want to try to provide some type of buffer in between that bike lane and the parking lane. And unfortunately, the width of Woodstock Street as it is today doesn't allow for that setup. And it, as well as like some of the proposal that's being made with the curb extensions and the driveway being extended out, that would kind of complicate that type of scenario as well. But in the end, it's just we don't have enough width at the moment with Woodstock Street where we're at.
Okay, so it's width of street that countywide is what determines whether the bicycle lane would be inside the parking lane or outside of it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. Be prepared. This could very well come up Planning Commission too next week.
Thank you.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
Hello. Apologies. I was listening for all of it, but getting my child home after a long day of work. This was the one that I had the opportunity to sit on, and Commissioner Lentelmi and Commissioner Theo covered most of my questions, but I did want to come on here and put my support in behind this. I think it's a great opportunity. My largest concern during this whole process was the parking ratio, but the imagery provided and the data that we have based on existing parking conditions in the area, as well as the plans that we're doing for the Langston Boulevard plan, wipes my concerns out. So no questions for me, but did want to make a comment on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. Seeing no other hands at the moment, I want to pick back up with where Commissioner Lantelmi was just on with the width of the road not permitting the order of the bike lane to be between the parking lane and the sidewalk. Can you share a little bit more on the county staff side of why that would be an issue for width with that arrangement versus with the arrangement where the bike lane is next to both the parked cars and the moving traffic? Because I hear what you're saying is there's a concern around providing a buffer zone in theory because of car doors opening, but that concern doesn't exist for car doors opening when the opposite is true. The vehicle is parked to, in this case, going northbound on, we'll say southbound on this side. The parked vehicle is on one side of the bike. On the other side are potentially moving vehicles. Why do we not have the same width concerns in that scenario than we do when we have a sidewalk in between the parked vehicles?
Thank you. Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'm presenting my screen again with that section. So in this scenario where we have the bike lane in between the travel lane and the parking lane, that does provide the cyclist some flexibility to either if there's some type of obstruction that's coming up with the door from the parking side to encroach into the travel lane, or the other way around, if for some reason there's an obstruction in the travel lane, they can also encroach into the parking lane if a vehicle is not parked there. If we were to reorient that where the bike lane is curbside and there's a door opening up on the passenger side, the cyclist is really just constricted to the curb, and we can't expect them to jump the curb. So that's why we welcome that buffer. And it's a minimum we seek a 3 foot buffer. And because of the width that Woodstock Street has now, that's why it hasn't been proposed or really pushed by staff. But that's the main reason. When you're curbside, as a cyclist, you have no other option really where to go to avoid that door opening. Meanwhile, in this situation that I have on the screen right now, there's a possibility of moving into the travel lane or a parking lane if that obstruction were to be coming up.
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation for that. I have to admit, I do not find that very persuasive as someone who, myself and my family, especially my young kids, bike on a normal basis. I would much rather trade for the safety of being momentarily stuck while someone is got an open door or something like that versus being sandwiched between vehicles that might be encroaching on from the travel lane towards the parking lane. It's far more dangerous than I think the concern that I think it's valid what you're raising, but I would maybe ask that county staff look at that and think about that from a little bit of a different lens, because I think from a safety perspective, it's much more concerning when bikes are exposed on the other side of the parking lane. Somewhat related to this, is there any possibility in the event that we keep the order of the bike lane being next to the travel lane? I know we're at 10.5 feet width on the travel lanes right now. Is there any possibility of that being 10-foot lanes to provide a 1 foot buffer, especially on the side of, I know we're only looking at a loading dock here, but there is a pickup drop-off zone. And one thing that we have seen consistently is that pickup and drop-offs tend to be something that blocks unprotected bike lanes on a regular basis. Is there any space for thinking through something like that to ensure that that is not encroaching on these bike lanes in the future?
Thank you. At the moment with the site plan application, we're getting high level plans. I'm sure it can be considered at the CEP stage where we'll have more details, especially with the striping. Staff is able to comment about really balancing out these 0.5s or whatever we have along Woodstock Street. I expect staff to kind of comment on that. But right now at the stage with site plan, it's kind of high level. The striping plan is high level, and it only shows mainly just like big changes. So like parking lanes and where those will be, or where the parking lane will be obstructed or removed with the curb extensions or the driveway entrances. But there's a possibility that this could, like some of these widths could be balanced out at the CEP stage.
Thank you. Commissioner Ludlow.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Yeah, just a couple of follow-up questions related to kind of the traffic production at this site. My understanding is that and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we're going from somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 units to around 250 units. Is that about right? Okay. With that, do we also expect a commensurate increase of about 5-fold in vehicle trip generation from that location?
I can pull those numbers. I think we because of the ratio that we're looking at here, I think we were at about I want to say about a 79% auto mode split. So I think that helps a bit with the trips distributed across the various modes. But let me pull those numbers for you. I don't have them right at my fingertips.
Yeah, sure. So while you're doing that, just also wanted to know a little bit about whether you have any insights on origin destination and kind of the overall kind of neighborhood ingress and egress. In other words, do you believe that more of the traffic will be flowing kind of through the neighborhood to Glebe? Will it Will more of it use Woodstock to Langston? And with that, the implication that I'm just asking about, and it may be inconsequential, is whether that the traffic will be significant enough to warrant any changes to signals, signal timing, or anything like that. Because frequently when Arlington develops a larger site like this, not always, but frequently there are additional, there's kind of a little bit more street capacity. These are relatively constrained streets that are already, at peak hours, at least in my experience, relatively busy, not overwhelmingly. So just wanted to know a little bit more about that. How will people flow in and out of the neighborhood? Do you envision any issues or constraints with current capacity and needing to do anything with signalization or anything like that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So of course, yeah, thanks for that question. So as far as the distribution of trips to the site, what we were looking at was approximately 40% or so oriented along Langston Boulevard and Cherry Hill to the east of the site, kind of coming to and from the DC area. About another 20% oriented north of the site, coming along either Glebe or Old Dominion. Another 20% to the west along Langston, coming to and from that way, and then about 20% coming south of the site. So 20% coming up either Woodstock or Glebe Woodstock or Woodrow from Glebe to the south. So about 20% there. So with that 20% distributed across those two roadways. So we did look at the signal timings up at the intersections on Langston. We did not find the need. There was not really a change materially in the analysis results. So no mitigations were identified even to signal timings or anything at those signalized intersections that we looked at up along Langston.
And that would include Cherry Hill and Woodstock as well.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Thank you. I also want to align myself with Commissioner Furman's comments on the bike lanes and the importance of getting that protection if at all possible. I also want to say that if we can, it'd be great to get a protected bike lane if we can only choose one side, just on the east side of Woodstock, because even though that is opposite of the site's plan, cyclists going uphill are often at slower speeds and not able to keep up with traffic, and having vehicles pass them at like a higher speed differential can create more safety issues. So would definitely like to echo support for getting one on the east side if we can prioritize it. And then for staff, I wanted to ask if we could potentially pull like a foot or a foot and a half from the planting strip to create some buffer space. Is that something we're able to do, or do we need to keep that at 6 feet?
It has to be at 6 feet based on landscape standards, and for like just healthy trees to grow in those areas.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Any other commissioners who have any questions or comments? Okay. I think then what we can do is move to pull up the 3 pieces that we need to look at for adoption. So Mr. Shelton wants to, or county staff wants to, can pull those up now. Excellent. Okay. Do we think we need 3 separate votes on these adoptions, or adopt as one vote?
I'm fine with merging and adopting as one vote.
I agree.
Okay. All right, I will read them all aloud so that we can then vote on them as a pack. We'll also have opportunity for comment on any of the 3 after I read through all of them. So I move that the Transportation Commission adopt an application for a general land use plan amendment to change the designation from low medium residential to low office apartment hotel located at 2031 North Woodrow Street. Also move to adopt an application to rezone the property from RA 8-18 multiple family dwelling district to CO 1.5 mixed use zoning district located at 2031 North Woodrow Street. And finally, move to adopt an application for a new site plan to permit the construction of an 11-story residential building with 249 committed affordable units and a parking ratio of 0.82 spaces per unit, with modifications for additional density, additional building height, reduced parking ratio, density exclusion, and other modifications necessary to achieve the proposed development located once again at 2031 North Woodrow Street. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Point of clarification on the parking ratio. I believe this adoption language has 0.82 here, but that it was previously referenced as 0.88. Did I mishear that?
Yeah, the 0.88 the applicant presented is inclusive of the visitor spaces. And typically standard is that we just do the ones for the residential. So 0.82 is what's being presented right now.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. Any discussion on the adoption motion? Okay. Hearing none. Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Coleman, do we have you with us still? Okay, potentially not. Commissioner Flores.
Aye. I believe Commissioner Coleman is trying to unmute and mute him,
Okay.
having difficulties.
Commissioner
But aye.
Coleman, whenever you're available, we'll come back to you. Commissioner Hussein.
Aye.
Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Locker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Mendelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Theo.
Aye.
And coming back to Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Thank you. And I will vote aye as well. So unanimously, we vote for adoption. Thank you all so much for the presentation.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that is our one and only agenda item for this evening. I'm going to ask that commission members, I'll often offer up an opportunity for if anybody has any points of order that they want to bring up. I have a small update to provide as well from Arlington Transportation's future meetings. So we can do that in a moment. Does anyone have any SPRC news or anything else they want to share with the group? Commissioner Hussein.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick update. Wait, can you guys hear me? I don't know if my voice is.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just a quick update. The Transit Advisory Committee met on the 20th of January. So just a couple of things to note. I'm just reading off my notes on my other screen. So they gave an update on some capital projects, namely the Ballston Metro West entrance. They're moving along with their RFPs and RFQs with procurement. They gave an update on the Crystal City Metro East, the East Metro entrance, ongoing construction. I'm sure you guys know that there'll be some shutdowns at the Crystal City Metro station for a few weekends up until, I think, towards the summer, I believe. And then buses replacing service at Crystal City Metro. And then the East Falls Church bus bay expansion. So as you know, new bus bays being added. And then that is supposed to be completed, I think, in the fall of 26. Shirlington bus expansion, that's feasibility study also expected to be completed in the summer of 2026. And then the Arlington Transitway, I believe it is, extension, also construction underway. And then they gave a few updates on the capital improvement plan, the WMATA budget, and then just some statistics on Arlington's student iRide program and Arlington Star para-transit program. And that is about it from the Transit Advisory folks.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Hussein. Commissioner Theo.
Yes, the Vision Zero team has an action item for us over the next month. They have a list of I guess, action items for their Vision Zero efforts for the program, whittling it down from an original number of like 96 draft items to now like 26 items across civic engagement, behavior change efforts, engineering, including quick build programs or projects. And they're wanting some feedback from the various stakeholder organizations, including Transportation Commission. So I will draft this up and send it out probably tomorrow or this weekend, and hopefully get some feedback from my fellow Transportation Commission members within a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, that I can then send back to the Vision Zero team.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Theo. Looking forward to that. Commissioner Mendelson.
Thank you. I wanted to spend a minute discussing some recently relocated and removed bus stops for Metrobus along North Fairfax Drive in the Ballston and Virginia Square area. The specific route I'm talking about is the new A76 under Metro's Better Bus Network that runs east-west along North Fairfax Drive from Ballston down to where it becomes 10th Street. Recently, the westbound stop at North Quincy Street was removed, and I confirmed with Metro employees that this was due to parking. Like, there's a parking lane that's also like right where that stop is, and there's a preschool that operates there, and there were some complaints over conflicts with parked cars and preschool operations that resulted in that stop getting removed after it was installed this past June. And I'm also told that the plan for the permanent stop is on the other side of the Fairfax and Quincy intersection by the newly installed building with the wider sidewalks. But I'm told that we can't get that stop up until the parking on that side, the front parking spots where the bus stop would be removed. So I'd love to figure out how we could get that accelerated or just potentially get that looked into, as there's currently no stops between Virginia Square and Ballston Metro on that route, meaning there is a half-mile gap between bus stops, and the closest stop to Washington Liberty High School and Central Library has now been removed. So would love to look into that. If anyone knows the best way to do so, that would be great, but definitely wanted to bring it up. And let me know if I can answer any questions if that was confusing at all.
I think the only thing that was confusing to me was why the bus stop was removed without replacing it with the proposed future bus stop. Mr. Shelton, is that something that we should bring up with Ms. Obukoya to see if there's an opportunity for us to contact folks to see what the status is on that, or if that can be expedited in some way?
Yes, I think contacting Ms. Obukoya would be a good first step.
Okay. So Commissioner Mendelson, what I'd recommend is then why don't you send a follow-up email, next couple of days, to just loop her in, and then we can see, maybe include myself and Chair Maradovic to see if we can get things moving and see what the procedure looks like there.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll get that drafted and I'll CC both you and the chair. And there was also one other stop that's like three stops down the line that was relocated due to concerns about parking conflicts as well. So I might also include that in the email, but not as big of a deal as the stop that got removed.
Is that one also planned to be replaced, or is that just a removal with no replacement?
That one's a relocation. So the stop was originally supposed to be at 10th Street North and Garfield, heading again westbound, and it got moved to the other side of the intersection at Fillmore Street because the county apparently did not want to remove 2 parking spaces where there is a plaza. So I might throw that in there as well, just while we're at it, but that's all I've got.
I think since we're raising the concern in one area, if there's another that's, semi-related, it's worth bringing up at the same time.
Sounds good. I will shoot her an email later, probably next week.
Perfect. All right. Update from me on the Arlington Transportation Futures Working Group. So had another meeting last night. Number of what were they? The number of policies have specifically been put forward now. And for each one of these policies, the ask of us and all the other commissions and committees that are feeding into the working group is to come up with up to 2 strategies per policy that are most important to us. And So I'll send out some more specifics about what do I mean by strategies? What is the working group talking about? What is this list of policies that's been presented? But the hope with limiting it to 2 strategies per policy isn't that we have to come up with 2 for each policy. There's a chance that we might look at this list and there may be some that we want a single strategy, no strategies. They just don't want to be inundated with particular commissions or committees having pet areas where they then throw 12 strategies at one policy and then aren't offering anything on other ones. So in an effort to try to make it so it's not a tidal wave of proposed strategies, they're looking for commissions and committees to come up with up to 2 per each policy. So that's something that I just wanted to flag for everyone that I'll be sending out most likely tomorrow. This is going to be due back to the Transportation and Future team March 8th. So I'll be asking for it probably a few days before that, maybe around March 5th or so. So more to come on that. Anyone else with any final thoughts? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night, y'all.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks.
Everyone, thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Everyone.
Night.
Good
Have a
night,
good
all.
night. Thanks.